Alright, welcome back to the channel everyone. I am Chris, also known as the Cheating Lefty, and today I've brought a couple of friends here with me. Well, now that I'm no longer tied down to just one company, I can throw any disc and putt with any putter out there. Wow, and that to me is an extremely daunting task as there is just so many options out there. So I decided it's best to document all my findings and what I'm trying out, and I want to bring all of you along for the ride with me. So I hope you sit back and enjoy as I'm going to bring you a 5-video mini-series here. First taking a look at the putting putters, then we're going to take a look at the throwing putters, the mid-ranges, the fairway drivers, and then lastly the driving drivers. So since there are so many putters out there and I just can't try them all, if there's any that match the criteria that I'm going to set forth in this video, please comment down below with what those putters are and I'll definitely give those a look. I'm going to be leaning very heavily on all of you during the course of these videos and then also into my decision making for the 2023 season. So again, if there's any discs that I don't mention that you think would fit well for me, be sure, comment down below. I want to hear your suggestions. So without further ado, let's get out to the course and build a bag. Alright everyone, let's go ahead and jump right in to see what I am looking for in a putting putter. First off, I have extremely small hands. I mean, small hand plus stubby fingers, so because of that, I need a putter that is going to feel very, very shallow, as well as something that has a small diameter, because I don't want something that the wind is going to affect when I'm in the middle of my putting throw. Nothing worse than when you're going to putt, and as soon as you're about to release the disc, the wind catches the bottom of the flight plate and changes the angle. And when it comes to bead or beadless, I have to say I don't really have much of a preference. For about the last year, I've been reviewing a lot of Discraft's beaded putters, so I've actually learned to kind of like them, so have to say no real preference. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the putters themselves, and first up we have the Axiom Envy. This is just a great straight putter. Again, it's very shallow, which is one thing that I love about the Envy. Very, very shallow, a low shoulder, a flat flight plate. So right there, check mark that. It is very shallow, a smaller diameter putter, check mark that as well. So when it comes to putting, I love how straight the Envy is, and also great effortless distance. I can putt this, I'd say about 40 feet with just my regular putt, and I don't have to change a thing, just aim right at the pole. It also is just so straight on jump putts. Only criticism is that when I do putt it, I tend to pull it a little bit left. So that's more in my form and not the disc itself. Next up, we have the Marvel from Birdie. This was a putter I was really excited to try, not only just because local Alex Geisinger really supports this disc, but just it won what? It won that like award for best putter of 2022. So again, just really excited to give this disc a try. Upon feeling the disc, it is a little bit taller, it has that higher shoulder to it, so as a result, it just didn't feel as comfortable. Also, as I'm kind of showing here, for like my standard grip, it just doesn't feel right. I can't get a good placement of my index finger there. I kind of have to choose high or low, so it does lead to some inconsistent putts, but it is very straight. It has great glide because it's deeper, so again, it putts well. It just doesn't feel the best for me. And now we get to the EV7 Penrose. Obviously, Drew Gibson had been using this disc with insane precision, and it's one, again, I was really excited to give a try. It is a slightly higher, again, has a high shoulder, but a flat flight plate, so it doesn't feel that terribly deep, despite the fact it has that high shoulder. It does have a small bead to it, but kind of like the Marvel, it kind of has this weird kind of, it's very blunt and then has a really sharp wing where it cuts in. So again, just like with the Marvel, it just doesn't fit my grip very well, but oh my goodness, it has great glide, it just goes forever, and not only that, the amazing thing is even though I don't get consistent releases, it just finds chains. It just goes in every time I use it, so it might be a putter I'll have to use just because I seem to putt so well with it. Now, next up, we have the Discraft Focus. a deep feeling beaded putter. However, that deepness is primarily in the premium plastics as well as the old D-line plastic, but this new putter line soft, specifically in the soft, is the one I have the most experience with. It's actually very shallow. I don't know what it is, but the shoulder just doesn't feel nearly as high, so they do have a semi-flat profile, at least in this soft plastic, and it's just a disc. Just aim it right at the pole and it's going to go where you want it. Now, next up we have the Alpaca, made famous by Eric Oakley, and I know it's a favorite of his. For me, he has much larger hands than I do, so for me it's just a little bit too deep. Kind of the same issues that I have with both the Marvel and then also the Penrose. It has that very high shoulder to it, but it does still feel comfortable in the hand, unlike, say, the Penrose or the Marvel. It does feel very comfortable in the hand, it's very straight, and it has incredible glide. So maybe not the disc for me, but I know a lot of players that would really love this putter. And then next up, we have the Kastaplast Reko, however you want to call it. This may be one of the front runners for me, primarily because it has a very shallow profile and a very flat flight plate. Just like a lot of the other putters on this list, it is very point and shoot, something where you just aim where you want it and that is where it's going to go to as long as you have a clean release, versus like the Envy, which is mostly like that, but then again, in my putting motion, I do sometimes yank it. For me being lefty, I do yank it to the left with the Envy. This, I do not have it, so it does perform better than the Envy in a lot of situations. However, it doesn't have the best glide to it because it has such a low profile, so I am having to lean forward more or do a little bit more with jump putting just outside the circle. Now, what putting video would not be complete without the legendary Wizard? This is just an icon of the putting world, but again, it does have a few of the shortcomings that I don't like in a putter. It has a very high shoulder. It just doesn't match well with my grip. However, for those of you who want to know about the Wizard, it has amazing glide, just absolutely tremendous glide to it, and is pretty straight. It has a slight little bit of a dump at the very end of the flight, but it has that tremendous glide so you can hit putts from so many different distances. Next on the list, we have the Maiden from Westside Discs, and this was one that surprised me. I have some history with the Maiden, however, I'm kind of coming back to it, and it does have, it has a low shoulder, but it does have a gradual dome to the middle of the flight plate. So when I hold it for backhand shots and throwing, it does have a shallow feel to it, but now with putting, since obviously you're kind of more, I have like spread fingers, it kind of has a semi-deep feel. So it's still shallow, but it just slightly deeper feel because of that slight roundness to the middle of the flight plate, but it still feels very comfortable for my grip. Also, very straight, point and shoot, just go straight at the pole, has a slight little dump at the very end, but because it gets that little bit extra glide, it's great for effortless distance. So now we're getting into a putter that I do again have some experience with, and that is the PA3 from Prodigy. This is a small diameter putter, fairly shallow. It does have a slightly higher shoulder to it than, say, the Envy or the Reko, but again, it has that very flat flight plate, so it does still have a shallowish feel to it, which feels good. Very blunt nose, so I have an area right where I can put my finger and it feels nice and comfortable, but then it also does have that really small diameter, so I always feel like I have control. And when it comes to the glide, it does have a decent amount of glide, nothing exceptional, but you know, within the circle, it definitely works. Okay, so now we're on to the putter that I've been using for at least the last year and a half, and that is this really nice tacky black Luna. And for whatever reason, these black Lunas, they really don't feel like a Luna. They have a much shallower profile to them than most of the other Lunas that I have tried. It just feels incredible in the hand versus other Lunas. They just, for whatever reason, the rim tends to nick my pinky upon release. These do not. These are extremely straight. And because they're so broken in, they have lost that really late dump at the end that other Lunas have. Now, up next, we have another icon of the putting world, and that is the ever so famous P2 from Discmania. This is a putter I really want to like because I know a lot of people who putt really well with these, but it does have that higher shoulder to it, at least again like most of the other putters, flat flight plate, which is good. It makes it feel not nearly as tall in the hand as it could have been, but despite those shortcomings, at least for my game, it does feel very comfortable in the hand, surprisingly enough. It has good glide, and then it also, it's a point and shoot. You just aim it at the pole, that's where it ends up, even slightly outside the circle. Now, we've seen the regular putters I'm looking at. Let's go ahead and take a look at what putters I'm going to be trying out for the wind. When the wind is up, you need that overstable putter. And the first is the Berg in that K3 baseline plastic. Now, with the Berg, a lot of people love it, and a lot of people hate it because of that thumb track. For putting, I personally love the thumb track because of where I position my thumb on top of the flight plate actually pushes up against that thumb track so that the disc doesn't slip. And when you're putting, you don't want the disc to slip, so I do get very consistent releases. Not to mention with putting, very torque resistant, very shallow feel, it just goes very straight, but it has absolutely no glide, so you gotta get it up. But in the wind, you don't want glide, so that's a check mark there. Next on the list, we have actually the overstable wind putter that I've been using for, I'd say, almost the last 4 years since I started throwing with Discraft. That is the Ringer GT in the Z-Flex plastic. This is by far one of my favorite overstable putters. Very, very shallow. It has a nice thumb track, which again, both backhand and for putting, I really, really love. It just gives me a good, consistent release. And in this plastic, it just doesn't go anywhere. It just, wherever it hits the ground, it stops. And for putting, yes, it dumps out of the sky, but it's just extremely straight. Next, we have the Sockibomb Slammer. I really wanted to give this a go just to see for putting how it would be. Would it make that great wind putter? Well, it was a little bit deeper in the hand than I'm used to. I used to use the regular Slammer as my wind putter, but the Socky Slammer just a little bit deeper, so not quite as comfortable in the hand. It's just a little bit too overstable for what I'm looking for, as I do have to leave it out wide for it to make it into the middle of the basket.
Hey everyone, I hope you noticed that during the course of the video, many of those putters flew the same within the circle. That is why the #1 tip that I always give to new players when finding that putting putter is that find something that's comfortable for your grip. Don't be forced to throw something just because the pros throw it. Throw a putter because it feels comfortable to you, because honestly, within the circle, almost all putters are going to fly the same. Now, yes, there are going to be some outliers. It also depends a little bit on like your form, your release angle, but generally speaking, inside the circle, almost all putters are going to fly the same. So if you want to become a better putter, if you want to make more putts, then I strongly suggest find a putter that just fits your grip. Because if you have confidence in your putter, if you're not thinking about your grip at all, you're going to make more putts.
So let's go ahead, wrap things up here. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and hopefully maybe even learned a little bit something about these discs. I'm really excited to show you guys what's going to be in my bag for 2023. So stick around for the future videos of this series, as next up we're going to have the throwing putters, which we're going to see some new discs as well as some familiar faces. So stick around for that. Now, if you're looking to try out some of these putters for yourselves, be sure to first check out Great Lakes Disc. They have a wide selection of discs as well as great customer service, fast shipping. You won't be disappointed. Also, use promo code LEFTY for 10% off your order. Till next time, everyone, keep banging them chains.